Actually, let me just pull up.
Hey, Gabe, I'm here.
Oh, cool, Dan. Dan, meet Tegan. Tegan, meet Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Tegan. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks for joining.
All right, so I'm gonna say Tegan Kline, the executive VP at is it IPWE? Is that how we say that?
It's IPWE, like intellectual property for all. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then I was thinking, I mean, we can just do like I usually start. The first question is usually, tell us the story of like you when you first heard about crypto, and then when you you actually got into it, and kind of like what shifted for you to make that jump. Just to give kind of give the context. And then I thought we would just get into IPWE to cover that. And then, from there, just play it by ear. Like, I've got this great list you sent me, and we can, I love the Buckminster Fuller conversation. This triangles thing sounds fascinating, all this. And so if you're cool with that, we'll kind of go in that order.
Okay, great.
Welcome to Coloring Crypto. Today we have Tegan Kline with IPWE. How are you doing today, Tegan?
I'm doing well, Gabe. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks so much for coming on to our podcast. Will you just start and tell us your own experience of when you sort of first heard about cryptocurrency and what happened to you that made you jump into this?
Sure. So I actually started out in finance. Barclays, I was working in New York City, and Barclays offered me a promotion out here in San Francisco. I was doing sales and trading. And the first week that I moved out here, I learned about Ethereum from a friend of mine. And just from that moment on, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology kind of took over my mindset, and it was all I was thinking about, all I was doing. I was going to events after work, just meeting a lot of different people working in the space. I started volunteering with Miko Mashtamura with Crypto Underground in Ahalia, and I met my now colleague there, and he told me about IPWE. So I was looking at blockchain for about 2 years. And I was looking for the right company to join, and I found that about 2 months ago with IPWE. I'm an executive VP of investor relations there. And IPWE, what we're doing is we are creating basically a marketplace for patents to transact. And our intention is to kind of give the power back to the innovators, which is what patents were initially created for. You kind of everyone has this natural apprehension to the word patent, and that's because the process is very expensive, it's long, it's cumbersome. And once you get the patent, you don't really know what to do with the patent. You don't really know if it's actually protecting you. So that's the kind of what we want to change.
So how does that work currently? Like what problem are you guys solving?
Yeah, so right now, for example, if you are an innovator, you're starting a new company, you don't know if a patent currently exists in the space that you're working on. So you have two options. You can hire a lawyer and pay tens of thousands of dollars to figure out if a patent exists in your space. Once the lawyer comes back with the documentation of these 80-page dense legal documents of patents, you don't really know what to do with them. Then you have to hire someone to go through them to figure out if they're valid, to figure out if they're worth anything at all. Or you can just infringe upon the patent and hope that you don't get sued. And then someday you could get sued for infringing on someone else's patent, and that could cripple your business. So what we're doing is we're creating a marketplace for patents to transact. So my CEO has actually been in the space for about 10 years in the patent space. He was actually a patent troll. And
wait, did you say he was a patent troll?
He was, yeah.
Define that for folks that might not be familiar with that term.
Yeah, so what he did is he built a tool using AI to narrow down all the patents that exist to figure out which ones are actually worth something. And then he went after people in the space that were either infringing on other people's patents, or he invalidated a lot of patents within the pharmaceutical industry and shorted their stock.
Interesting.
So that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing over the past 10 years. He turned about $125,000 into $500 million as a patent troll, and then he made about $1.4 billion shorting other people's stocks. So not the greatest background, but within the pharmaceutical industry, he reduced a lot of drug prices from thousands of dollars down to $10. So that's something a little bit admirable. So I was a little bit nervous working for someone who has that background, who has been in a patent troll. But what we're doing now is we're using the technology that he put about $20 million into to change this space and remove a lot of the inefficiencies that exist, bring transparency to the space, and kind of make it a more liquid market. So before he was kind of playing on the arbitrage that exists in the patent space, and now we want to reduce that arbitrage and actually create or enable patents as an asset class.
I wanted to throw out for listeners, it's a coincidence. We just had a recent podcast with a company called Arbitrage that finds arbitrage plays in the cryptocurrency space across exchanges. So arbitrage is a familiar term for folks. Now, so with IPWE, is this more for folks that want to get a patent or already have a patent? What's the sort of first market for you guys?
Yeah, so we're not really helping people obtain patents. What we're doing is we're helping people use the patents that they have already obtained or plan to obtain. So on our platform, you can license out your patent to people that might want to use it, and then you will receive a profit from that. It's called a royalty. Or if you're not using the technology anymore, you can actually allow people to acquire the patents that you already hold. And then there are a lot of different slivers to our business, like patent maintenance fees. Right now, there are about 3 intermediaries that to pay a payment to a patent office. It's a $300 payment on average that you need to pay to maintain your patent each year. And because of the 3 intermediaries that exist in this space, you end up paying $700 in total. So $400 on top of that $300 payment. So with our platform, we're going to reduce that cost from $400 down to $30. So we're reducing the margins, but we're increasing the number of transactions that exist. And that's good for both sides. That's good for the patent holders and the patent offices that are receiving that yearly annual maintenance fee, because the more it's price elasticity, the lower the cost, the more people that will pay that fee.
And what's for you guys? What's your business model? You take a sort of cut of the transaction?
Yeah, so exactly. So we will take that $30 fee, and then we'll make that payment for the patent holder and to the patent office. Yes. Yeah, and there are about 20 million patents that exist in the world. So that market alone, that's $600 million. If assuming all patent holders pay that fee on our platform, that's the cut we would take on that.
Did you have a background in patents before you started working with these guys?
I didn't know. My background's in finance, and that's what kind of interests me, because it will become an asset class and you'll be able to kind of invest in these different patent portfolios. So that's kind of what interested in me. And also just the fact that it's an industry that hasn't been disrupted, and it really needs disruption. And I think it's a really good use case for blockchain.
What an awesome learning curve for you to be thrown right into this. I mean, it's a really interesting space. So I got a couple of questions. I have a limited understanding of how patents work. I understand, like you're saying, I know those lawyers' fees are incredibly huge on top of, the filing fees with the U.S. government. So I know with patents, as I understand them, you kind of have to have, or you're supposed to have a lawyer sign on with you that interacts with the U.S. government. Do you guys handle the registration like that, or is that still in the patent holder's name or the original lawyer's name, or how does that piece work?
We won't handle the registration, but what we've also built is a tool that allows you to identify who owns the patent. So on these patents, the first page, it'll have who owns it, but generally that's wrong. The information on there isn't correct. So we'll actually have a validating platform, a way for patent holders to validate their own patents on the platform. So once you figure out which patents exist in your space, you'll then be able to figure out who owns those patents.
And then do you have to, like, if you own it, so I'm just saying, if somebody's listening and they have a patent, do they need to go in and register with you guys to kind of confirm that, or that's just already in the database?
Yeah, so they could go in and register their patent on our database. It's also possible that their patents are already on our database, because we have gone, 200 patent offices exist in the world. It's per nation. Each nation has their own patent office. And because my CEO has worked in the space for so long, he's gone out and scraped the data of 80% of the world's patents. and clean that data and put it on our platform.
Interesting. So, okay, so it's global, because I know that's another barrier for people that are getting patents, is they've got to do each process separately.
Exactly, which is so silly. It's so silly, and we hope that with our platform that will kind of change, and it'll become more of a global process as opposed to having to file with each independent nation or country.
So I've also heard in the patent space that, there's certain patents that are very valuable, like certain industries. For example, I've heard in the software industry, it's not as solid as, in like building a physical product or something like that. Do you know, like for you guys, are you guys targeting specific industries or markets to kind of like get the lowest hanging fruit?
Yeah. So, exactly. It doesn't make sense to patent a technology. The only time you'll really do that is if you're trying to throw someone off. But yeah, exactly. So universities, they are kind of the low-hanging fruit. They want to get their IP out into the world. A lot of different companies, they hold baskets of patents, and they'll be a little bit more. So for those that don't want to license their patent to certain others, they'll be on a permission network, but on the universities, they'll be on a permissionless network because they're open to licensing to anyone.
And do you know, like, are the universities, are they like drug patents, or what kind of patents are they, or does that even matter?
It depends on the university. But yeah, just with the different labs within the university, there's the different spaces, they'll patent certain things that they're working on.
Okay, so for people that want to find out more, I guess mostly it'd be people that hold patents or are just really curious about this space. It's IP, the letters, IPWE.com. How else do they find out, or is that just the best place to go find out more about this? And also, like, is it, where are you with the roadmap? Is it operational? Like, what stage are you guys at right now?
Yeah. So right now, if you want to look up which patents exist in your space, or if you're curious about the patent landscape, you can go to Zeus Analytics. That's live today, and you can narrow it down. We're giving away Zeus Analytics for free, and then we're giving away the registry to figure out who owns the patents for free. The only time that we'll make money is on that transaction platform. So both of those are live today, and then the transaction platform will go live next month.
And we'll put that in the show notes, but will you just spell that for our listeners? The Zeus Analytics? Yep, ZUSE, and then analytics. Okay, cool. Now, here's another topic I think listeners will be interested in, is you getting this job at IPWE, coming from a place of, like, learning about Ethereum and getting into the blockchain. I think a lot of people right now are interested in this space, maybe, aren't developers and want to know how to plug in. One of my favorite stories is do you listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast ever?
I don't know.
So Tim Ferriss has got a great story of, before he's a big investor. He's done really well in the startup space. And he talks about the importance of volunteering. He's like, go volunteer for an organization, and that's how you network. So tell us your story of kind of like, not really being new to the blockchain for somebody who wants to, get a job in it. Like, what was your path?
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I was just on a panel with Min Kim. She did a great breaking into crypto event in San Francisco. But yeah, so I just think if the passion's there and the interest is there, just go out and meet people, go out and network, find meetups, go on Facebook, see which events are in your area. And then the more you do that, the more you'll kind of learn about what you're interested in, which areas in the space that you're really interested in. And then the other advice I can give you is just really help people whenever you can. If you can help someone do anything in this space, just do that. So for example, so I was volunteering with Mika at Crypto Underground. I met Brian. We exchanged business cards. I saw he had an extra ticket to a Stanford event, and he offered it to me.
And Brian is your current CEO. Brian
Berman, yeah, he's my colleague now.
Got it. Okay.
I went to the Stanford event with him. He told me that he was trying to get a VIP ticket to Token Fest, but they were sold out. like, oh, well, I know Brinkley Warren. I'll just reach out and see if we can get you a VIP ticket. And Brinkley was kind enough to extend Brian that ticket. And because of that experience, Brian told his CEO about me, told his CEO about my background, and our current CEO was like, get her to work with us. And so that's kind of how I broke into this space. But yeah, I think when the passion's there, people they see that, and people want to help people. So.
I think it's really, really good advice. Just to be sort of specific, are there particular, like, I think people that, here use Facebook and use meetups. Some people don't know what that means exactly. Like, would you just literally, for your area, type in, go to meetup.com and then type in, blockchain or crypto and just start going to things?
Yep, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, events occurring in your area. And then also just read about the space, pay attention to the news, listen to different podcasts. There's 2 books that I really recommend for the space that are still relevant, and that's the Book of Satoshi and then Truth Machine by Michael Casey. Those are the 2 of my favorite books in this space. And then obviously read the Bitcoin white paper, the Ethereum white paper.
That is awesome. I can say I looked at the Bitcoin white paper and I can't say I read it. That's a dense piece.
It is, yeah, very technical. I'm personally, I'm not very technical. I'm more on the social side, at least within the crypto space. And if anyone that's listening to this podcast wants specific advice on how to kind of break into the less technical side of the crypto blockchain world, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we'll include whatever sort of best way to contact you in the show notes as well. But I love the book recommendations. Very helpful. I'm going to put those in the show notes. We're going to have good show notes for this episode. Talk to me about this group you're involved in, or you're the head of US for Triangles, that's helping women founders and entrepreneurs. Tell us about HeyTriangles.xyz.
Sure. Yeah. So Holly Stevens, she founded Hey Triangles. And the reason she did it was exactly for what you're asking. A lot of people want to get involved in this space. A lot of women want to get involved in technology and blockchain, but they don't really have the outlets to go to find out about events or what to read, what to learn, what to do. So she created Hey Triangles. And the goal is to really help female entrepreneurs and founders break into the technology space or advance within it. And then we also welcome male champions. So for example, my 2 co-founders at IPWE, Pascal and Eric, they would both be male champions because they've given me an executive role, a woman in executive role at their company. So any men that are lifting women up are in our community as well.
Oh, so it's not just like male mentors, hey, I want to help. It's like, no, I'm a champion. I have example of what I have done in the space to elevate women and their sort of empowering their roles. Okay, exactly. That's another good resource. HeyTriangles.xyz for women that want to either plug in or just advance their roles in sort of the blockchain world. So you sent me some really cool notes before our call, and I'm a big fan of Buckminster Fuller myself. I hadn't seen Albert Wanger's book, but it looks fascinating. What do you think? Like, what's keeping like, you're still 2 months into this job, so it's still probably pretty fresh, but like, what's keeping you inspired? What are the topics that you kind of like love to talk about at get-togethers?
Yeah, so blockchain really excites me because I think that it'll help us get into more of the knowledge age as opposed to the capital age. Right now, money really drives people, and as opposed to helping other people or creating social good. And I think that is going to change because I think that the capital age that we're in currently is kind of failing a lot of people. So I think that we'll see a shift from the capitalist money gives you power to more of knowledge gives you power in the coming years. I really look forward to universal basic income. So just giving people the resources that they need in order to do what they really enjoy doing, as opposed to just doing what gives them money. I think that with artificial intelligence especially being on the rise, I think that will kind of push us into this UBI, because a lot of AI will take over many of the jobs, and we've already seen that happen. It'll take over a lot of the jobs that currently exist, and a lot of people, a large portion of their identity is on how much money they make and the job that they're working in. So when that does shift and when people are no longer working, they'll actually be able to work on and create things that they're really interested in creating.
And then the knowledge age and the capital age, those are things from Albert Wenger's book, World After Capital.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
yeah.
So just playing with this idea, like, would you imagine universal basic income and, distributed ledger technology like the blockchain being related somehow?
Yeah, I do, because I think with blockchain technology, we can reach everyone in the world, and we can distribute capital more evenly. And one really great, so I'm close friends with Jason Page, and he works at Intercoin, and that's actually something that they're working on, is providing universal basic income, but not broadly. They're doing it community based in each community. They're kind of connecting all of the blockchains that exist, kind of like the search engine did for Google. So that's a really great project.
Are they targeted in specific communities?
Exactly. So like the vegan community will have a certain universal basic income within it, and it'll be kind of on a donation base. Or
is that up and running?
It is not. No, they're working with the SEC, I believe, to get filed.
God, it's so interesting. My experience, like I kind of started this podcast maybe 5 months ago, and I was so, it really was an excuse just to learn about the space. And I was so enthusiastic. Now we're like, 40 podcasts in it. And I've had a couple of interesting podcasts where we discussed, all the hype, and there's nothing there yet.
Yeah.
And it is going to take some time. And I think that's why, like, it's, and I've talked to a few people who were kind of getting a little bit burnt out on, there's so many exciting things, and yet it's hard to have a tangible thing, to tell your mom or your grandma or just somebody, like, here's what it's doing to change our lives, instead of the promise of it.
Totally. Yeah. I think that, we're still building out the infrastructure. I do think that we're probably in a bubble. I think 98% of a lot of that exists in the space won't in a few years. But this bubble is very important for us, for the capital to flow in, and for us to be able to build out that infrastructure. So, I compare this current time to the internet in 1992. A lot of great ideas came out at that time, but it just wasn't the right timing for them. And I think a similar thing will happen with this space.
Yeah, it's so funny when you think like, oh, if I can go back to like 95 or something and invest in these tech companies, but like, you might have put all your money in Netscape and then it'd be, nothing. And so it's like, still going to be interesting what shakes out,
totally.
As this evolves.
And that's why, and that's why kind of at IPW we're almost agnostic to the blockchains that we're using. Right now we're using Hyperledger to store the hash, and then IPFS to store the data. But it's kind of a plug and play model, whereas if those aren't what are adapted in the future, we'll be able to easily make a switch from the blockchains that we're on.
Cool. I was just going to ask about IPW and how you guys are using the blockchain. Can you go into more detail on those?
Sure. So we're using Stellar for our payments layer. I think Stellar has one of the best payments platforms out there, though I think they're still working on getting fiat as an option. So IPW, we decided not to do a utility token just because of the SEC uncertainty, the uncertainty in the U.S. We are accepting on our platform will accept all currencies, so fiat and then all cryptocurrency. And yes, we're using Hyperledger, like I said, to store the hash, and then IPFS to store the data.
And so you guys are not going to do. I totally get it. The SEC is getting more clarity, but not enough. And so I understand you're going to not do a utility token. How are you guys structuring that? Are you doing like an ICO that's coming up or has happened, or what's going on with that?
We're not going to do an ICO. No, there might be a chance that we offer a security token in the future, but again, not until a lot of the uncertainty shakes out. Okay,
and so are you guys just doing a typical or classic fundraise? Is that how you're raising money?
I can't talk about it, unfortunately, because of the SEC regulations. But if anyone's an accredited investor, feel free to reach out directly.
Got it.
It's so unfortunate. We're stifling innovation in the U.S. and it's pushing it out to other countries that are more open to the space. I understand it to an extent. I wish that the SEC, as opposed to like accredited investor, you can't play unless you're wealthy. It's ridiculous, and it needs to be looked at. I think that instead it should be a percentage of your wealth. Everyone's welcome to invest a percentage of their wealth, and then there could be, which you could get from tax returns, right? Everyone files every year, and then there could be a test that is given. So knowledge allows you to invest a higher percentage of your wealth. That's what I think it should be. And also with lawyers, like if you get in legal trouble, you can tell the judge that you want to represent yourself and that you don't need a lawyer to represent you. I think a similar thing should be allowed with the SEC. I understand the risks. I'm deferring. I don't want the SEC to be involved in what I'm investing in.
That's a pretty simple, good idea. I hadn't thought of that one before. A percentage of your income, like because I heard people saying come up with a new solution, but right.
It's keeping people that don't have the funds out of the system, and that's not fair, and that's what needs to be looked at. And I think that kind of ties into moving into the knowledge age, right, and out of this the capitalist age.
I heard a Joe Lubin talk recently where he was saying, as we move into this knowledge age, that if you have a startup idea, like this is going to allow you to get faster, easier access to capital, where it'll be less about promoting, but just about getting a technology idea up there, and that will kind of like just have a greater exposure and greater sort of magnetism to attracting money to build it. Because I know, you're in investor relations. I'll just assume, my experience raising money is like, my God, it's like just banging on 1,000 doors to get 5 responses. It's a lot of wasted energy, but
it is, yeah.
So how do you? It sounds like you've got a pretty good nose for networking in the blockchain, especially meeting people, but also like. The question I'm going to ask is, how do you what do you do to separate the signal from the noise? Just how much buzz there is in the blockchain. Let me give you an example. I was at a conference in Santa Monica 2 weeks ago, and I forgot to one of my contacts. I was like walking up to the stage to see who was talking. I heard somebody talking about the SEC, and at first it sounded really, really insightful. And I thought maybe this is somebody from the SEC. But the longer I stayed and the more I realized who it was just a CEO from another company. And I was like, I think this is kind of bullshit. I feel like a lot of people that don't know what's going on are talking like they do. And the folks that realize it's hard to say what's going on are not talking. But how do you kind of like figure out what to listen to, or who do you follow on Twitter, or, how do you do that?
Yeah, it is difficult. There is a lot of noise in the space, and there's a lot of companies that are putting blockchain, or they're saying they're using blockchain technology, but it's really just business as usual. I guess just understanding the use cases for blockchain that make sense, understanding the ones that don't, and then also exactly like Crypto Underground, that's kind of my nucleus for this space. You go to a lot of these conferences and it's a lot of hype. It's a lot of people that are in it for the money or the greed and not really for the technology. But I come to Crypto Underground, and it's always a great speaker. It's great people in the space that actually care about the space. They care about the technology. They're not there just to make a quick buck. Yeah.
Right. We had Miko Matsumura on, I think, episode 16. We'll put that in the show notes too. I forget which one. But he's So he started Crypto Underground. Sounds like he's done he's got his hands in a lot of crypto stuff. So what is Crypto Underground exactly? It's a monthly meetup?
It's a bi-weekly meetup. We meet every other Tuesday. And it starts at 7:30. It's in San Francisco, generally at Galvanize in Soma. And we'll have a speaker on for about 45 minutes. We take Q&A, and then afterwards there's a lot of networking that happens. We always encourage everyone to meet someone new in the room before they head out, and that's where I've made a lot of really, really great connections. A lot of really respectable CEOs and founders come to those events. Like I said, it's a lot of people that are in the space less for the hype and more for the care of what we're building, what we're doing.
That's really great. And so for people that want to find out about that, do they go to the Facebook page?
Yep, Facebook page, and there's a meetup group, just Crypto Underground. Feel free to reach out to me as well.
Awesome. I have a question for you. So I went to a meetup I'm in Los Angeles. I went to one on Wednesday, and it was commercial real estate on the blockchain, and it was another thing, and it was pitches. It was like people pitching their ICO, and understandably there's a lot of secrecy around what they're really doing and how they're doing it. But I was just thinking, like, how much more fun it would be for listeners and participants to be involved in more of like brainstorms of ideas that are maybe more open source, and just kind of like have like, hey, this is an idea for, a cryptocurrency or even just a blockchain application I want to create. I'm not attached to like it being my idea, but like, how do we do it? What are the solutions out there? Like, I think that would be a really fun meetup, and I haven't found it. I haven't found one. It feels more like I'm presenting my idea to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be a great event to kind of host. If you wanna get involved, I'm happy to help you host it.
Maybe we will do that, Tegan. We'll start a new kind of meetup that's more interactive. And I used to do these art storms for this art festival where we'd have people come with an art idea and just help them get resources, and it's a lot of fun. And another thing too, like, so within the finance space, there were a lot of people that were really kind of set in their ways and unwilling to adapt. And I always say, if I had to define intelligence in one word, it would be adaptation, or the ability to adapt. And I think oftentimes with a lot of these pitches, we're speaking to great people that have a lot of knowledge in the space, but oftentimes they're afraid to share that knowledge because a lot of people do hold on to their ideas very tightly, and they're not always willing to change them. And I think that kind of culture needs to shift, and people need to be a little bit more open and receptive to hearing advice on what they're doing. And if you are pitching to a VC and they tell you no, try to get a little bit more information out of them as to why they're saying no. And I hope that VCs that are saying no are a little bit more receptive to giving that feedback and that information. It sounds like so obvious, but it's such good advice. People just don't do enough. Like, if there's a rejection of any kind, like finding out if there's a learning moment in there.
And that's one thing I really like about my CEO, Eric. He's super receptive to change and adaptation, and someone will give him advice in one meeting, and then the next meeting he's already incorporating it into the company. So that's one thing that I'm really grateful for.
Are there topics in the blockchain, or even like terms, you think are misunderstood? Or I'm kind of getting at, a lot of times I think people don't ask the questions because they are afraid of looking stupid and asking what exactly is, a certain subject. But are there things that you notice that people don't explain correctly, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess it depends on who you're surrounding yourself with. If you ask a question and someone makes you feel dumb, or if you're working for someone that makes you feel dumb when you ask a question, you should find a new person to work for, or a new company to join. I think that it's very important to flush out those misunderstandings or misconceptions and feel comfortable to ask a question. And I guess, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ray Dalio, but he wrote the book Principles, and he incorporates that in Bridgewater. And that's one thing that he really drives home, is that if you don't understand something, let us know, because everyone's smart, everyone's capable here. So let's figure out what you don't know and flesh it out so that way you can really think about the problems that are at hand.
I think it's smart advice. Well, okay. Before we close, are there specific? You gave some great book recommendations. Are there specific people on Twitter you suggest following, or how else you kind of like get your news?
I'm sure there are. I've been kind of out of that space just because I've been so busy with the projects that I'm working on. Obviously, Miko's a great person to follow in the space. I really like Trisha Walla Dollar. I love what she's doing in the community. Jason Page, like I mentioned, at Intercoin. Yeah.
Awesome. We also have
Vinny, obviously Vinny Lingham. But these are all people that are in the Silicon Valley space, which it's good to kind of expand your horizons. But of course, everyone's kind of subjected to their own communities.
And then people that want to find out more about your company, it's ipwe.com. And then if they want to get a hold of you and ask you questions, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. Just Tegan at ipwe.com. Or just reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. My Twitter is the Kline Venture. The
Kline Venture, awesome.
Yeah, and Dave, I'm not sure if this will be helpful, but I also do mining. I've been mining for a while.
Oh yeah, so tell us about that.
I don't know if you want to ask me about that. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Well, my experience mining is I tried. When I first got into this like 6 months ago, I had a friend who was doing like proof of stake had just gotten really big, and he was like, just download this stuff and get in. And I just couldn't. I spent hours trying to figure it out and did not do it. So you're mining. Tell us what you're doing in the mining reality.
Sure. So that was actually one of the first things when I learned about crypto. I learned about mining. So I bought in the secondary market. I bought a Antminer S9, and I guess this was when the Bitcoin was at about 15,000. But there's a lot of propaganda in the media that tells you it's not profitable and not to do it, not to bother. But I broke even after about 2 months, and that's electricity included, cost of the machine included.
Wow.
But granted, like I said, that was when Bitcoin was at $15,000. But right now I have 10 machines. I bought the remaining 9 off of Bitmain directly. So if anyone's interested in getting into the mining space, feel free to reach out to me. I can help you kind of get started on that. But
so the first machine, the machine you bought was called the Antminer S9?
Yes, and it mines Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. I mine just Bitcoin. And then I'm obviously looking at it in the long term. I think Bitcoin right now is the blockchain that has been proven, it's been tested, it's been tried time and time again, and it's proven itself. So right now I'm very long on Bitcoin, but obviously nothing that I'm doing here is investment advice.
Yeah, we'll put a caveat on all of this that this is not investment advice at all. But Tegan, you're a wealth of information. I love it. I think this is great for people that are trying to plug in, and I really appreciate your generosity and sort of inclusivity and ideas. So thank you for that. And I would love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know if I can help in any way.
Thank you, Tegan. Have a great weekend.
You as well. Thanks, Gabe.
Coloring Crypto.